Good evening, Board and Superintendent Smith. On the executive summary, I'm going to highlight some things that's not on here, but that'll get us to 10.
Yeah, that's great.
We definitely have our 3% reserve. And we're following a qualified statement due to the uncertainties at the state of California and the deferrals. And we do have in our first interim some mid-year budget transactions based on the triggers. As I get into the details between now and page 10, you're going to see that we had these projections based on $189 per ADA, and that was based on the Legislative Analyst's Office. As of yesterday, we got information pertaining to the Department of Finance. That won't be finalized until January when we go to our workshop January 10th. So depending on the governor's budget, preliminary budget, there may be some changes. But I just wanted to highlight that. Although we're projecting right now $189 loss per ADA, it could go down to $13 per ADA, which would be significant for us. But we're being conservative, so the first interim have the higher revenue reduction. Let's see here. And in anticipation of the mid-year cuts, the way we built our budget for the current year for 2011-12 that we're in, even if the mid-year cuts were to take place, we wouldn't have to cut any programs. We didn't allocate those dollars in the budgeting process, so the impact would hit our fund balance. And we would still have our 3% reserve, as well as $20 million for audit findings and deferred payments from the state. If we go on to page 5, we kind of have a breakdown of our fund balance. Based on our current projections, our fund balance is projected to go down by $12 million because of the loss of revenue, basically, due to the mid-year cuts. And then I go into detail more. The revenue loss will be $6.2 million for revenue limit, and the revenue limit is revenue limit per ADA that we get for each child. And I'm just going to highlight the big items. And then we're also, in the mid-year cuts, our transportation costs. So there's another $2.8 million for contribution for special ed. Going on to page 7, here is we're comparing the adopted budget to first interim. And if you go to the bottom line, you can see at adopted budget, we have projected $45 million, and fund balance as of first interim is $33 million. And the main categories is the loss of the $6.2 million in revenue, as well as an increase in expenditures of 4.8. So it's a loss, it's a change of $11 million because our revenue went down and our expenditures went up. Page 8 gives us the detail of the $6.2 million. And again, here it highlights the mid-year trigger catch of the $189 per ADA. You will see that in red on this slide. There's $6.8 million, which is a big hit. And then there's some other increases and decreases in the budget. And after all the revenue changes between adopted and first interim, we are projecting a reduction of $6.2 million in revenue from various sources. Going on to page 9, this is a detail of our expenditures and how it increased to by $4.8 million. At fall revision, we did have some reduction because of enrollment loss, so that went down by $700,000. But the big changes are down in supplies and services and increases. You can see that went up by $2.3 million overall. And the bulk of that is the $3.3 million that we're going to pay out for the early retirement incentive plan in the current year. So when we're all said and done with our changes for expenditures, it increased by $4.8 million. And going on to page 10, we're back to our ending fund balance, which is $33 million. And then we have the detail of the components of the ending fund balance. The $12.6 million is our 3% economic uncertainty reserves. We have a $7.5 million for audit findings and $12.9 million for deferred maintenance. I'm sorry, not deferred maintenance, deferred payments from the state of California. They're still deferring our apportionments. I do want to highlight just one other page on the multi-year projections, just on page 16. just to confirm and for you that we're still doing conservative budgeting. On page 16, you can see right now for the 2011 budget, we all of the expenditures and revenue changes brings us down to the $33.2 million fund balance. We're projecting no changes in revenue at this time, and there are some slight changes in expenses based on the consumer price index, but they're minimal. So this is conservative budgeting. So depending on what happens in January, the prior year would change. So we don't have any increases in COLA. That's it.